All right, for people just getting here, oh wow, I'm loud. Sorry, I won't scream. All right, so people just getting here, we have a smaller group, so I'm going to try to keep it as interactive as possible. I'll have questions at the end, but if you have questions in between, don't hesitate to ask them. So I'm going to start off with one. How many people in this room have clicked on a banner ad before on their phone? Wait, nope, so that's one part. Second part question, how many people have clicked on a banner ad on their phone on purpose or intentionally? Yeah, not many hands. Okay, more than I thought. That's good. All right, so what I'm here to tell everyone about, and so I'm going to preface this by saying I work for Millennial Media. I'm going to try to be as non-biased as possible. I'm going to be talking about our competitors. I'm going to be talking about products that we do not offer. I'm going to be talking about a number of different things that, app developers use to generate revenue. I've been at Millennial for about 4 years. I head up the publisher sales team there. So my goal and my job is to talk with prospective app developers and publishers, educate them on ways to make money, and educate them on the products that we offer. So for today, we're talking about how to scale your revenue with innovative ad formats. And so, one of the great things about working in this technology sector is that new innovative ad formats are coming out on a daily basis. I'm not going to be able to hit all of them today, but I'm going to try to hit the most important ones and the ones that I think generate the most revenue for app developers. So this is a giant chart of the display advertising landscape. I'm leaving it up here for a second because that is a lot of companies and a lot of things to choose from. My goal here today is to hopefully narrow this down to let you know kind of who we trust, who we find to be the most and reliable, provide the best technology. But yeah, you have a lot of options when it comes to monetizing your application. So that'll lead me to my next question. How many people in this room are app developers? And how many people in this room are currently monetizing their app? Okay, good. Display, in-app purchases, a little bit of everything. Subscription, paid for, premium, consumables. Okay, great. My focus here is definitely on display and in-app purchasing. It's kind of what our company focuses on. It's what my expertise in the subject matter is. So that's just kind of a caveat there. So on my plane ride in today, I came in from Baltimore this morning. I read an article from the head of monetization at Zynga. Everyone aware of Zynga? Words of Friends, I'm sure. And he said that there are 3 main things that he thinks about when creating a new app. Now this is very gaming oriented. This slide is very gaming oriented. The talk today will not be all that gaming oriented, although monetization obviously lends itself very well to gaming apps. But the 3 areas of focus that was mentioned are retention, making your app viral, and monetization. Now, I'm not here to talk about retention. I'm not here to talk about making your app viral. I'm here to talk about the third one, monetization. And in my opinion, and as the article stressed, probably one of the most important things. Having consistent revenue coming through enables app developers to make better apps, make more apps, make money, feed their families, all of the above. So, move beyond the traditional ad format. Here's a screen of various different interstitials. Now, the reason I have this up there is that banners aren't your only option. There are 1,000,001 different ways in which you can monetize out there. I feel like when people hear the word display advertising, it has this negative connotation of banner ads and clunkiness and interrupting usability of the application. That's not the case. If done correctly and done well and done properly, it can really add a lot to an application. And, kind of going back on what I just said, banner ads do hold value. I promise you that. I think the stat is that $64 billion will be spent this year by advertisers on ads. And more than 50% of that is being spent on banner ads. So there's still a lot of revenue out there to be generated through banner ads, even though we kind of asked that question before of who's clicking on banner ads, who's clicking on them on purpose. That's a 60% year-over-year growth compared to last year, expecting to hit $160 billion overall, and that's including all ad formats by 2018. So with banner ads, what can I do to make my banner ad actually work and actually mean something to my user? Metadata. Metadata is a key word here. Metadata comes in many forms. I think the most common forms are location, age, gender, household income. Any data that you can send through with an ad call when you're calling on a certain ad network and pass that information through is going to allow us to target that ad to that user. So the example here is a Dunkin' Donuts campaign, right? We are 0.9 miles away from the nearest Dunkin' Donuts. Once you click on that campaign, it's going to load up a coupon to use at that local Dunkin' Donuts. Now, for me, if I'm a mile away from a Dunkin' Donuts, I'm offered a coupon, great. But if I'm getting the same Candy Crush campaign over and over and over and over again, I'm probably going to get a little annoyed. So ways to combat that are to utilize metadata and utilize it well. Data's your friend, I promise you. Rich media. Unfortunately, my rich media is not working on this slide. It was working for me before. But what we see with rich media is that big brands still spend on banner ads because they're able to do a lot within that small unit. And so typically, this would be kind of having some animation going on, and it prompts you to download. This would be for, I think it's Bank of America app. So with those, you still see high price points. Now, maybe not quite as high as Lightbox video. So here is where we see kind of a new jump into the banner era. This is a mock-up of a Lightbox video ad that Millennial Media has put together, but we're not the only platform out there that's going to be moving forward with this. You're going to see a lot of this coming. I'm seeing it a lot on Twitter recently. I've seen it a good amount on other applications that I've been using. What is so great about the Lightbox video? You get video CPM price points within a banner location. On top of that, big brands love the look. Standard banner, brands like, but when they can make it look like this and make it that much nicer and that much more engaging to the user, they're going to spend more money on that. And it just drives engagement. You know, looking at an ad like this, the video pops up. Now from here, you have to swipe to be able to break this into a full screen video. And I can see that can probably turn some people off. That's a little intrusive. Is it blocking content on my application? But at the same time, that user has the ability to slide that little video right off the screen and then it's gone. And it just goes back to being a normal banner. But keep in mind, price points on this are 4, 5, 10 times % higher than what we're seeing on kind of standard banners. This brings me into my next product, which is static interstitials. Everyone familiar with what an interstitial unit is? Interstitial, the best way to really define it is think about a TV ad. Or when you're watching TV and they go to the commercial break, there's a natural break in the action that allows you to show an ad. Think of that in the same way as an interstitial. An interstitial would show within a natural break within your application. I found some of the best use cases of this are Zynga Words with Friends. Playing Words with Friends, you submit your word, and then you either get a video or a static interstitial campaign to show up, and then you're on to your next move. Now that didn't interrupt gameplay. It generated money for the publisher, and at the same time, didn't disrupt the usability of the application. Another one of my favorites is Picstitch. Anyone familiar with Picstitch? I'm a big photo share, a big Instagram user, and so what Picstitch allows you to do is take multiple pictures and put them into collages or whatnot and export them. And with that, on the export, they utilize an interstitial. And it works great. It's not ruining the app. I've already submitted. I'm ready to move on to my next process, whether it be posting it on Facebook, posting it on Instagram, sending it to my friends via text message. But it really, again, drives a lot of revenue. And with this unit in particular, the Starbucks unit that we're seeing, it really utilizes the cool features of your phone. So that slide bar, that would be the accelerometer moving the phone around. And as the phone moves, the ad moves with it. And there's many different examples that we could put up there of using the accelerometer. But we've seen, at least our creative services team in-house, has really been able to do some great things with using the cool features of the phone. And what does that mean? It means bigger brands coming in, spending money. They love the look, they love the feel. And the one thing to notice about the static interstitials is that it's not as intrusive as a video campaign. You don't have to opt in for 15 seconds. You don't need to opt in for 30 seconds. It's just a standard static. Usually you have the X button pop up right away that once you can close it. All right, everyone still on board? Okay, good. Now we're moving into one of my personal favorites, video. Video is the highest growth unit in mobile. You're hearing it left and right. I think we're seeing constantly and hearing in the news that spend on video, especially on mobile, is becoming more and more. People are not watching TV as much. People are using their tablets. People are using their phones. And so that traditional ad spend that you see on kind of the TV and digital front is now starting to move into mobile. And with that, there's really three specific, there's more than 3 video ways to monetize with video that are out there. But the 3 that we see most commonly used between our publishers are the interstitial video, which kind of goes hand in hand with that static interstitial unit we were just talking about. shows within the same place, a natural break within the application, and then pre, mid, and post-roll video. So how many people here use the CNN app, ESPN, really any news source that has their own video content? Everybody? Yeah. And typically when you load up a video, what do you see prior? A 15-second kind of forced view video that comes into play. And so becoming much more popular, very easy to integrate, typically with a VAST tag or a VPay tag, just a simple URL that you can implement within your video player. And price points on the pre-roll video are much, much higher than we're seeing on really any other video units. The reason for that is because it does generate a completed view. And completed view is something that advertisers care about. So if you offer a 3-second skip on a video, you're probably not going to make as much revenue as if you're able to put that forced view in there. But again, it's really all about knowing that user, knowing what you're comfortable with putting in front of that user, and not driving people away from the app. You want people to keep using the app. And I think you'll hear kind of throughout the talk today is that finding that perfect middle ground of being able to monetize without ruining user experience is really, really important. And then the last video unit I want to talk to here is incentivized video. Incentivized video is probably one of the fastest growing things out there. There was a time when Apple and Google were a bit anti it and developers were moving away from it. I think companies like Millennial and others are really starting to understand how to do this best for the publisher and for the advertiser. So incentivized video would be incentivizing a user with a reward, right? So if you're playing a game and you hit the end of the level and you're stuck, you can't move on. You can either do an in-app purchase or you can offer to watch this incentivized video. And by watching this video, you give the user a jump to the next level, 10 coins. The ability to access something within the app that they weren't able to access prior. We're seeing a ton of growth with this. It's really working well. I think you're going to see a lot more of it over the next 2 or 3 years. Specifically with gaming apps, it really fits gaming apps pretty well. But you'll see it outside of that as well. So what we're seeing a ton of, and what the key word that we're hearing in mobile nowadays is native. Anyone who's heard the word native in the last 3 weeks, raise your hand. Anyone who has not seen native on TechCrunch or on VentureBeat or on any of the various news sources that you read, I'd be surprised to find. Native is really the future wave of what we're seeing with mobile monetization. And what native really means is that you're able to put an ad that really fits your content. And there's many different ways to do it. The greatest thing about native is that it's very customized. You can take assets of a certain ad and make it fit the app so that it looks like and it feels like it's a part of your application. It's not just a banner ad that just sits there and is completely not relevant to the content. It really is built into the content. So the first one I want to talk to you about is in feed. So in feed, I think the most typical version of this we see is with Facebook. You're scrolling through your Facebook feed, and you typically see a sponsored by or promoted by campaign. Moving on, this is actually one I took last night while I was on Instagram. Instagram has unloaded a slew of sponsored and native ads over the last month. They are putting they're all in right now with sponsored ads. But what we see is that this looks like a regular Instagram post. There's really no difference between what my friends are posting and this, other than that I'm probably not following Slurpee or 7-Eleven on Instagram, and so this ad is put in front of me. But kind of going back on what I said before is that feeling of being all-inclusive and being a part of the content, and that it doesn't stray away or look like it doesn't fit. This looks like it fits. It looks like it's a part of the app, and engagement rates on these native ads and eCPM price points, because of those engagement rates on these ads, are driving price points up. It's still new to mobile. I'll get into kind of who supports this and who I think are the best native providers that are out there. But you're only going to see more and more ad spend come into these native units over the next few years. We have app install and recommendation widgets. This is the one that I find to be a bit of the most intrusive one. You'll be scrolling on a news article and you think you're on CNN. You get to the bottom and you have recommended articles. You click on one, assuming that it's coming from CNN, and it pulls you off that site. You're somewhere else. So if done right and done tastefully, I think it's done well. But I do think there's some room to grow there. This is one I took off Facebook last night. to drive us app installs for DraftKings. DraftKings is spending an incredible amount of money on every medium right now, so they're popping up everywhere. And then my personal favorite, I think one of the harder ones to really get into play, but we'll see a lot more of in the near future, is custom. Custom meaning whatever you want. So this is a scoreboard application. I'm in looking at a score, and this blimp flies by promoting the new turkey roasted Arby's. Pretty cool. You know, it looks like it's actually a part of the application. I've seen, I'm a big golfer and I play a lot of golf video games, and I've seen golf video games where, you know, the sponsored Goodyear blimp comes from above. Goodyear's paying for that, right? They're not, you know, they're not just putting the Goodyear blimp in there for the heck of it. And so I think we'll see a lot of that moving forward. Cool thing about this is that as an app developer, you have the ability to build in certain ad units and make them look like they're very customized. You can take a 300 by 250 and add a skin to it that matches the application that you're developing, and it really makes it feel like it fits, right? The end goal of, you know, here's an ad, it's not intrusive. Most users understand, there was a poll, I think, a couple months ago where 80% of users out there understand that if I'm downloading a free application, I know why there's ads on it, right? The publisher needs to make money, the developer needs to make money. If I still want to keep continuing to use this application, I continue wanting that publisher to do well and create more applications, they need to make money somehow, right? So these are all kind of the standard display advertising units. I guess before I move on, I just want to kind of give you an idea of who supports the native ads out there. Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo, names we know, names that we aren't surprised to see on this list. AppsFire has been doing native for a long time, and as I said before, I'm not going to try to not be biased, but I'm going to be a little biased. Millennial Media also offers native ads. These are, you know, the best places to find them. All of these are self-serve networks, so anyone can roll in, sign up an account, and start taking advantage of the demand they have. You know, my suggestion is to experiment. You know, especially with display advertising. If you have an app that's in beta, give it to your friends, give it to your family. Litter it with ads. They're going to tell you right away what works and what doesn't, what they like, what they don't like, and take that back. And you know, I mean, you know that you've been on apps before that, you know, you can't use it because it's so horribly littered with ads. You've been on websites before where an overlay pops up before you get to any content. You're like, I'm out of here. I'm moving on. I'm going to my next website. So, you know, one of the best things that I always like to tell developers when I'm on the phone with them, and I talk to developers every day, is put yourself in the shoes of the user. You know, you can put a million ads on there and try to make revenue, but at the end of the day, you have 2 banner ads on one page. Only one of those is going to get clicked on. So that means you're driving kind of poor engagement rates. And a lot of companies, especially networks such as ours and Google and Apple, you know, they rely on that engagement rate to be able to determine what ads they should show to users. So if you have a click-through rate that's, you know, next to nothing, you're not going to get good content. But if you have a good click-through rate, and the ways to kind of drive that click-through rate, metadata, being able to utilize better ad units, interstitials, video, that's going to put more money in your pockets. So now this brings me on to an area that Millennial doesn't offer. I wouldn't say it's my expertise, but if I'm going to do a innovative ad solutions talk, I have to include this. And it's in-app purchases. I think we're all familiar with in-app purchases. How many people have made an in-app purchase before? That's a surprising large number. I, for one, have not, and I download apps on a daily basis. I think I'm pretty staunch about it, but I also work in kind of the display world, so I want to support the display world, but typically it's just not something I'm really into. The 2 examples I have above are kind of your standard iOS in-app purchase that you can kind of just utilize their technology, and then one where you are able to kind of make it a little bit more customized to the application. Ideally, I think that looks a lot nicer, and it fits a developer much better as opposed to that. But at the end of the day, you know, it really does drive the same point. So some kind of key best practices, I guess, for in-app purchasing is make your in-app purchase a must-have. Don't ruin the app. Don't make the app not usable, but make it something that a user is like, wow, I have to have that. That is like awe-inspiring. That's great. That's going to make this application so much more fun or so much more better, you know, what have you for me. It should maintain full functionality, right? You should still be able to utilize the app. Maybe you get timed out, you can't get to the next level for another 10 minutes. Maybe you can't access certain content, but the core of it, they should be able to utilize the application. Understand your user base, and I'll move on with that. I'm just going to keep that out. Understand your user base. We're going to move into more of an talking about analytics on the next slide. So standard conversion rates on in-app purchases are about 2 to 5%. So that gives you 95% of your users aren't clicking on those in-app purchases. Now, how do I monetize those users? I have an answer for you. Oh, I missed one. Keep it simple. Don't offer a million in-app purchases. I'm not going to scroll through 55,000 in-app purchases. Have a few. Understand that they're there to generate revenue. You have to understand what your ROI is and how much money is it costing me to get a new user, and then how much money am I making off that user. Ideally, you would like that number to be higher of making money off user than acquiring that user. So one thing to think about, analytics. Analytics are your best friend. Millennial does not offer an analytics solution, so I can be completely unbiased here. Understand who to target with certain monetization strategies. So going back on that number before, 5% of your users are actually clicking on your in-app purchases and converting on those in-app purchases. So that leaves you 95% of your users that aren't. These companies will let you know who those people are. Having an SDK in place from Tapstream, Google Analytics, App Annie, Flurry, these are 4 or 5 leaders in the space. There's many, many others. These are the 4 that I typically recommend. I believe all of them are free to use. Am I wrong on that, Stephen?
I don't know. I think they're free.
Yeah, so utilize that. What it will do is tell you that which users are clicking on your app purchases and which ones aren't. The ones that are, don't put display advertising in front of them. You're already making money off them. No need to put banner ads in front of them. No need to put a video ad in front of them. They're clicking on those in-app purchases. But for that other 95% that aren't clicking on the in-app purchases, those are the guys that you want to hit with standard display monetization. Because you got to make revenue at the end of the day, right? That's the end goal. So understanding your user, who's clicking, who's not, and targeting those users with the correct type of monetization is extremely important. Knowing your user demographics, that kind of goes back to that metadata, what I was talking about before, is being able to target users. These companies will let you know the age of your users, where they're located, how often they're using the app, how long are they on the app, are they downloading the app and then quickly deleting it. All these things that you need to know. Knowing your users is extremely, extremely important when monetizing. Crash analytics, I put that in there because there are millions, I guess not millions, thousands of SDKs out there that you can put in for monetization. If you have a number of those that are crashing the app, it's going to drive users away. That's the last thing you want. You don't want me to pull up the app, utilize it, it crashes 3 seconds in, I'm deleting that, I'm moving on. So understanding who's causing those crashes, being able to identify those, pull those SDKs out, or work with the companies to understand why it's happening or what's causing those crashes to get quick fixes in place. Heatmap analysis. Heatmap is pretty cool. You can pull up a certain screen within the application. It'll tell you basically, red for where my fingers are clicking on that screen, and not red for where they're not clicking. And whether that be kind of where your ads are placed, it can help you understand, should I have an ad on the top of the page? Should I have an ad on the bottom of the page? On top of that, if you have users that are registering with Facebook, Google, or just a standard registration process, which I highly recommend. You want your users to register. You want to have a database of your users. Understanding where they're clicking. Are they going mostly through Facebook? Are they going mostly through Google? That's very important to know. Increase user retention by optimizing push notifications, right? Again, these will allow you to understand how are these users using the app on a daily basis? Are they using it on a monthly basis? Are they downloading it, used it once, and never came back? You can start push notifications. You can start utilizing push notifications to say, hey, we miss you, come back. Maybe it's that one little tick that's going to allow someone to say, like, oh yeah, I forgot about that app. I have 150 on my phone, and I can't utilize all 150 every day, but I really like that one. I'm glad they put a push notification in front of me. That's going to drive me back to the application. So I went a little bit under. I'm going to go back and see if I missed anything. Okay, so actually one thing I did want to talk about, and this kind of goes all the way back to the banner portion of the talk, and I apologize for missing this. One of the coolest things that I've seen developers do is they offer a freemium version of their app and they offer a paid version of their app, right? Paid version typically ad-free, all the features are unveiled, you can utilize it. But with the freemium model, they'll put a banner ad in there, persistent banner ad. I find that developers all too often will put a banner ad that's within the scroll, and so you're scrolling through the content and the banner ad's gone, and that's going to drive really poor CTR. So I do highly recommend utilizing an adhesive unit. They call it a sticky unit, something that's always visible. Having that unit in place, is just going to drive better engagement. On top of that, you're going to get more views on that banner ad. kind of going back on banners. But what I've seen work really well is between this freemium and the paid version. You ever seen the apps that have a little X, kind of built within the banner that holds, and it's just a top right X, and it looks like you can utilize that to close out the ad. But instead, it'll prompt an in-app purchase to say, oh, do you want to go ad-free? Download the free version here, or download the paid version here for 99 cents, and drive that user away. If they are fully against being monetized against, they will download the paid version, and there you go. You save money off that user. But if not, they still move forward and stay within that monetization realm. So that's a lot. I could probably go on a lot more. I don't want to, I would say monetization isn't the sexiest talk. It's necessary. You want to make revenue as an app developer. You want to be able to continue driving business, continue to put out innovation, to continue to make updates to your apps. That's really important. And so you need to learn and to monetize, and you need to monetize your best efforts. Another thing that I highly recommend is downloading as many apps as possible, especially in the space that you're developing. If you're developing an entertainment app, if you're developing a gaming app, if you're developing a news app, download the top 5, top 10 guys, and see what their monetization strategy is. You'll learn quickly which ones do it right and which ones don't. So with that, I would love to open it up to some questions. Overall, you have myself, not the most technical person here, but can try to answer, but I have Steven here with Millennial that can dive into more SDK-related questions, more integration-related questions. So let them fly.
All right, sure. So you tried to be non-biased. I appreciate that. But I would like to know what Millennial Media does.
Okay, great. So I didn't really want to bring it into the picture. I did want to just state that, but I'm happy to go on. So Millennial Media.
I'm not a plant, but.
I'll give you my quick elevator pitch. Millennial Media is the world's largest independent mobile advertising platform. We are based. I'm based in our headquarters in Baltimore, Maryland, but with offices in New York, San Francisco, LA, London, Singapore, Paris, all over. We are at our core a display advertising network, and we focus solely on mobile displays. We don't do anything on desktop. You can only access our inventory and our demand on phones and on tablets. We are, the main products that we do offer are banner ads, video ads, interstitial ads, native ads, and that's, at our core we are display. We acquired a company, NextAge, out of Boston at the end of last year. NextAge is really helping us drive our next revolution as an ad tech company, and what that means is exchange, programmatic. We're seeing a lot of kind of RTB, and that's a word that you're going to hear a lot, automated buying. At our core and how we started, it was very much an IO business where we have relationships with direct advertisers, and that's how we built our brand, right? We were having those advertisers buy our inventory. We were out getting the best inventory in the game. I think our SDK is within 65,000 apps in the App Store, iOS and Google Play. But what NextAge is kind of leveraging us to do is to move into more of a mediation space, SSP. So think of the MoPubs of the world, the AdMobs of the world. A one-stop shop where you can access all the demand, right? You can get our SDK, you can get Apple's SDK, Google's, Twitter's, Facebook's, and have one place and one consolidated reporting UI where you're able to view your stats on a daily basis. And so I highly, highly recommend utilizing a mediation platform or an SSP even off the bat, because it's going to give you the ability to access demand from all over. Because where Millennial might be very strong one day, eCPM-wise, they might fall off the next day, and someone else might jump up and have some better campaigns running. What this technology allows you to do is build a waterfall. And so you can throw up someone at the top that's driving the best results and have it waterfall down. Fill rates will vary. Fill rate meaning how many of those impressions you send through are being actually hit with a live ad. And so there are plenty of ad networks out there that have great pricing, right? Oh wow, these eCPMs are great. You're only filling 5% of my ads. 95% of my ads are going unfilled. And so utilizing a mediation or an SSP allows you to keep fill rate as high as possible while also having the best yield overall.
So how, as far as like the payout on like advertising in your app goes, is it like cost per view, or like pay per view, pay per click? Is it some kind of affiliate thing where someone has to actually hit the link and buy something or take some sort of action? Like what is the actual like per action payout, I guess, to the developer?
All the above. So we run in-house, and I'll speak strictly to kind of display banner units. And CPC, CPA, CPI, and CPM. So you're going to have your cost per click, your cost per install or acquisition, and CPM would just be cost per 1,000 views. Typically, we see brands that are spending on CPM, right? So that's going to be your Starbucks, your Best Buys, guys that have name recognition, and so they're really just buying eyeballs. They want more and more people viewing that brand name and getting more brand recognition. CPC would be cost per click, so that's kind of driving engagement. That advertiser wants you to click on the ad, they want you to view it, they want you to kind of be a part of it in some way. And then, as you alluded to before, CPA, CPI would be to physically either download an application, sign up for a service. So all three run pretty richly, heavily throughout our network. And that's mostly on banner ads. I would say with video ads, you're seeing more CPM dollars. Obviously, not as many clicks on video ads. And you'll see charges on CPCV, which is cost per completed view. So if 10 seconds of the video is completed, X amount, 15, 30, what have you, it kind of moves up the charts as the video gets completed.
For the mediation of having multiple,
Yeah.
does it automatically select the highest one? Because I used it a while back in its like kind of infancy, and it seemed like you had to kind of track and switch them, which was kind of difficult to keep up with.
So yes and no. I think a lot of it is still manual right now. They do offer automated mediation where it'll just adjust the waterfall on its own. The only issue with that is that not everybody has perfect data. So if you're pulling in data from 8 or 9 different ad sources, some might be correct, some might not be correct. And so I always kind of like to look in, at least on a weekly basis, make sure that the changes that are being made properly, and that the stats in my kind of overarching UI match up with each individual UI. We'll get to a point where it's not like that. I think it's still new. Mobile overall, only about 7, 8 years old, so we're still innovating on a daily basis, but it's getting better, definitely getting better.
So another one for you.
Sure.
I know this might be impossible to answer, but considering I'm a novice in this space, I've
Sure.
never put ads in an app. I have no idea what kind of revenue
Yep.
I might expect. Do you have any way to give me any hints?
Sure. I can give you very, very ballpark estimates, and now this is going to be with no data coming through, just kind of standard units that, numbers that I push out to people and take it with a grain of salt. And so banner ads, we're going to speak on a CPM level, so that's going to be cost per 1,000 views, typically between 50 cents and $1. If you move into that static interstitial unit, you're going to see anywhere from about $3 to $5. If you move into the video units, you're going to get $8 to $10. Anything above that would be possibly incentivized video. It could be pre-roll video. There are certain campaigns that come through that are very, very rich because they're very, very targeted, right? The more targeted a campaign, the higher price point they're going to carry, right? If I'm looking for just people in Denver, Colorado, it's going to cost me more to win that inventory, so I'm going to bid more to get that inventory because it's just very, very general. So that's ballpark, and then taking that and kind of understanding how many users you have and how many ads they're seeing on a daily basis. One thing that I probably could have mentioned, I should have mentioned, is frequency capping, right? Understanding that you don't want to just overwhelm users with ads. You have the ability to put frequency caps in place to say this user should only see X amount of ads on a given day. Refresh rate, especially with banner ads. If you have a refresh rate of 5 seconds and that ad's just like a carousel, no one's ever going to see it, no one's going to click on it. So I usually use the happy medium of about 30 to 60 seconds is a good idea, depending on how often people are in your app, right? If it's an app it's a weather app, people are rolling in, checking the weather and out of there, you can probably have a quicker frequency on how often those ads are shown. If you have a gaming app where a level takes 5 minutes, keep that ad up and let people see it. It'll probably generate more revenue at the end of the day. I think a lot of people get wrapped around, well, more impressions are going to mean more revenue. Not always the case. If you have 1 billion impressions and no one's clicking on them, you're not going to drive as much revenue as if you have 500 million impressions and a much better click-through rate.
You were saying with more specific campaigns, the amount of revenue could be higher.
Sure.
Based on location, things like that.
Yep.
So I guess does that kind of go off what you're saying with using more metadata?
Exactly.
You're only going to get those if you are having that metadata, but if you don't have that metadata available, or if you're not passing it off, you won't be able to access those higher rate campaigns.
I would say yes. I mean, a short answer, yes. But you have to understand that metadata works with certain apps and it doesn't work with other apps, right? Especially, I kind of always err on the location one. if I'm playing Words with Friends and Zynga gives me the opt-in to say, hey, Zynga would like to use your location, why? Why do you need my location? I just want to play Words with Friends and get out of here. But it's a news app, it's a weather app. If the location is actually being used to help me, that's a better way to utilize it. But it's not always just location, right? It's age, and it's gender, and it's better demographic knowledge. And that goes back to having kind of, requiring the users to log in at some point, whether it be through Facebook, whether it be through Google, or whether it be just a proprietary, login. Understanding who your users are, and you can always pass that information to these ad networks. And if you fall in that, 90% of my users are male between the ages of 18 and 25, that's very, very valuable information. And if you're able to pass that information to an ad network, you're going to access those higher price campaigns. Okay.
So, let's say if you were working with a game and you wanted to try and get more of that metadata in there, location's not going to apply. If there's no logging, you're not going to have age, race, sex, whatever.
Right.
What kind of metadata might still be useful?
So SDKs, right? I think a lot of people are hesitant to put in SDKs because it drives, the overall size of the application up. But what SDKs allow us to do is take some cool data on lat long location, right? With that SDK in place, we know where that phone is at all times. And that lat long information can be utilized the same way as physically sending the lat long, through. And also gives us IP address, and so we can correlate IP address with location. So it's not always the physical passing of that lat long. There's other ways in which you can gather that information. But the more precise it is, the better we're able to target.
On iOS, could you not collect your IP address?
we collect advertising ID, right? So you have...
No, we collect the advertising ID, but unless you explicitly send location information, we don't collect that. We only get it from core location. Core location is enabled. Gotcha.
Thanks, Steve. All right, well, I have about, 5 minutes left, and so we'll be out here, and if you didn't get any free swag, please come up. We have t-shirts, we have 3-in-1 chargers, really cool, you can charge 3 devices at once, off one USB cable, and Ryan and myself will just be back here if you have any more questions that you'd like to answer or ask us. But really appreciate the time, and thank you for coming out here. My card's on the table, Ryan's card's on the table if you want to reach out to us and discuss this in more detail or just kind of discuss your specific application. We're here to help you.